Welcome to Stoic Today, where transformation begins not through noise or distraction, but through clarity, stillness, and purpose. If you've been searching for a space that fuels inner strength, sharpens your mindset, and calls you to rise above the noise of this world, you've arrived. But before we go deeper, take a moment to do something powerful for your future. Click the subscribe button, drop a meaningful comment, and allow this message to unlock a deeper level of awareness, discipline, and personal evolution in your life. Thank you for choosing to be here. Your time is valuable, and everything shared on this channel is created with the intention to honor it, challenge you, and guide you toward the highest version of yourself. Now, let's take a step deeper. Have you ever seen a lone wolf beg to be part of a pack? Of course not. A true wolf walks alone not because he's weak, but because he knows who he is, where he's going, and what he stands for. He doesn't need attention to feel alive. He doesn't seek validation to know his worth. And neither should you. You were never meant to blend in. You were built to stand out quietly, boldly, and with intention. If this message speaks to something inside you, don't wait. Ode T. Subscribe to Stoic Today, right now. Let this channel become your daily source of clarity, motivation, and unwavering inner power. The next message is waiting for you. It's not just content, it's a shift, a mirror, a challenge. Listen closely. Your rise starts now. A lion doesn't walk through the jungle explaining itself, it simply exists, commanding respect through its very presence. Some of you feel like you're being punished by life for being alone, especially when the calls stop, the messages vanish, and the weekends grow quiet. But what if this isolation isn't rejection? What if it's refinement? Because only in solitude do you start uncovering who you really are and what you're really here to do. People often fear loneliness like it's a curse. They equate silence with failure and solitude with rejection. But some of the most legendary men throughout history spent extended seasons in silence because no one liked them, but because they knew something most ignore. Solitude is sacred. It's in those quiet spaces where the strongest voices are born. It's where a man is stripped of illusion, of distractions, and left only with his truth, and that is where real strength takes root. With yourself, no distractions, no background noise, no fake friends hyping you up when you don't deserve it. Just you, your thoughts, your reality. And that's where real growth happens, because most people avoid themselves. They surround themselves with people entertainment nonsense, just so they never have to sit in silence and ask, who am I? What do I really want? What am I willing to do for it? A man who can't be alone is weak. He relies on others to fill his time, give him purpose to validate his existence. But a man who can walk alone, that's the man who holds all the power. He doesn't need permission to move. He doesn't need approval to chase his vision. He doesn't need constant reassurance to believe in himself. He's dangerous, not because he's reckless, but because he's disciplined, because he's built in silence. Look at the greats, the warriors, the kings, the legends. Every single one of them at some point walked alone. Why? Because they understood that loneliness wasn't a punishment, it was preparation. While the world was laughing, partying, wasting time, they were sharpening their minds, their bodies, their spirits. They were focused on something bigger than popularity. People fear what they don't understand. So when they see a man who doesn't chase validation, who doesn't need constant company, who doesn't beg to be included, they don't know what to do with him. He's unpredictable. He's unshaken. He's unbreakable. That's the kind of man you need to be. Stop looking at loneliness as a weakness. Stop thinking you need people around you 24/7 to prove you matter. The real ones, the ones who build empires. True greatness doesn't come from staying comfortable. It comes from consistently choosing discipline over distractions. Most men fail not because they lack ability, but because they can't stay focused. One message, one notification, one party, and they're gone off mission. But the man who can master his impulses, who can shut out the noise, and stay committed to the mission, he's unstoppable. Because every minute spent distracted is a minute stolen from your future. Distractions will never control his future, because every time you give into something meaningless, you trade a piece of your potential. Every time you choose a temporary pleasure,
over long-term growth, you set yourself back. And most people don't even realize they're doing it. They wonder why they're stuck. They wonder why they keep starting over, why success feels out of reach. But the truth is simple. They've never learned how to be alone with their mission. If you want something great, you have to give up what's average. You have to stop running to distractions. Every time things get hard, you have to stop seeking comfort. When you should be chasing progress, the man who can sit in silence and do the work day after day, night after night, without needing validation, without needing entertainment, without needing applause. That's the man who wins. Discipline isn't built in crowds. It's not built in parties. It's not built in conversations that lead nowhere. Discipline is built in those lonely hours when no one is watching, when no one is clapping for you, when no one cares what you're doing, and to the real test. It's not how hard you work when people are looking. It's how hard you work when no one sees, when no one checks in, when it's just you, your goals, and the quiet. They think it means they're missing out. I think it means they're not living, but the ones who understand, oh, they move differently, they don't get distracted by nonsense because they've tasted focus. They've felt what it's like to be fully locked in. And once you see what happens when you put your head down and work without stopping, here's the reality. You're either disciplined or you're distracted. You can't be both. Every time you choose short-term comfort over long-term growth, you move further from the man you were meant to be. Greatness demands sacrifice. It demands loneliness. It demands moments where you work in the dark, uncelebrated, unseen, but fully locked in. That's where transformation happens, not in the spotlight, but in the shadows. End result, the money, the power, the respect. But they don't show you the isolation that built, because before any man reaches his peak, he has to go through the season where it's just him, his vision, and nothing else. And most people don't make it because they can't handle that part. They want companionship, they want constant reassurance, they want someone to tell them they're on the right path. But that's not how greatness works. The biggest moves, the most powerful transformations, the deepest breakthroughs, they don't happen in front of crowds. They happen in solitude. Think about the warriors of the past, the kings, the legends, the icons. They didn't rise to power, surrounded by comfort. They weren't held up by 1,000 hands telling them how great they were. No, they had to disappear first. They had to be alone. They had to train in the dark, suffer in silence, build themselves from nothing. Because the moment you decide to chase something bigger than yourself, the world will test you. It will strip you. Of distractions it will take away. The people who don't belong, the path to true greatness is often walked alone. Not because you're unworthy of company, but because very few are willing to endure the pain, discipline, and discomfort it takes to evolve. That's why the road is empty. The lonely nights, the inner battles, the moments of doubt, they aren't setbacks. They're signals that you're walking the right road. The uncommon road, the road that turns men into legends. It's empty for a reason, because only a few are willing to walk. Only a few are willing to endure, and only a few come out on the other side. As legend, silence builds strength. Silence is the most uncomfortable thing for most people. When they run from it, they fill it with noise, distractions, anything to avoid sitting alone with themselves. But a man who wants to be strong, truly strong, must learn to embrace silence. Because in that silence you face yourself, you face your weaknesses, your fears, your doubts. And most men can't handle that. They drown it out with constant entertainment, pointless conversations, and empty distractions. They think that by staying busy they're moving forward. But movement isn't progress. Noise isn't growth. A man who never stops to reflect, to think, to truly listen to himself. He's not in control. He's just drifting. The strongest men in history understood the power of silence. They knew that real strength isn't found in the crowd. Hell, it's not in the loudest voice or the biggest following. It's in the mind of the man who can sit alone without distraction and still be at peace, because that man doesn't need the world to tell him who he is. He already knows. Silence reveals the truth. It shows you who you really are when there's no one to impress, no one to entertain, no one to pretend for it. Strips away the masks. And for some that's terrifying, because they don't like what they see. They realize they're weak, unfocused, unsure of themselves, and instead of fixing They surround themselves with more noise, more distractions, more people to make them feel comfortable, but comfort doesn't. Build warrior is a man who can sit in silence and sharpen his mind. That's a man who can't be broken. He's not shaken by opinions because he's already faced his own doubts. He's not desperate for approval because he's already learned to validate himself. He's not afraid of being alone because he's used that solitude to grow stronger. You learn to be silent. You learn to listen to yourself, to your instincts, to the lessons life is trying to teach you. And when you step back into the world, you don't move like the rest. You're not desperate for attention, and you're not begging to be seen. You walk with a presence, a confidence, a power that only comes from a man who has conquered himself. And that kind of man changes everything. You outgrow the average. Most people. I don't understand what happens when you start leveling up. They think growth is just about working harder, getting stronger, becoming smarter. But what they don't realize is that growth comes with a price, and that price you outgrow. People at first, it's subtle, the conversations don't feel the same. The things that used to excite you start feeling empty. You sit in a room full of people, and instead of feeling connected, you feel distant. It's not because you're better than them, it's not because they're bad people. It's because you're changing, and when you change, the world around you reacts. People say they want to improve, but most don't. They want to stay comfortable. They want to stay the same, while hoping life somehow gets better. So, when they see you putting in the work, when they see you making sacrifices, when they see you becoming disciplined, it makes them uncomfortable, because now you're a mirror. You show them what they could be, but aren't willing to become. And instead of being inspired, most people take the easy way out. They distance themselves. They start doubting you. They try to pull you back down. This is where most men fail. They start feeling guilty. They start slowing down to keep up with people who aren't even moving. They shrink themselves just to fit in. But listen, if you have to, lower your standards to stay connected. That connection was never meant for you. You can't expect people to grow with you. You can't wait for them to catch up. Some will, most won't. And that's just how it is. The moment you decide to go all in on your purpose, you will lose people. Friends will fade. Conversations will die. Invitations will stop. And that's okay, because the ones who truly belong in your life, they won't be threatened by your growth. They'll match it. The world rewards the man who is willing to walk alone. It punishes the one who stays in place, out of fear of being misunderstood. So ask yourself, are you willing to keep moving forward even if it means leaving people behind, or will you slow yourself down just to keep others comfortable? Because at the end of the day, you're either outgrowing the average or you're staying average. There is no in between. The right people will find you when you start walking your own path. The first thing you notice is how lonely it feels. The people you thought would always be there start fading away. The conversations that used to excite you now feel empty. You find yourself standing alone, wondering if you made the right choice. But here's what most people don't realize. Lawn isn't the end of the road. It's the beginning. See, when you decide to chase something bigger than yourself, life removes the ones who no longer belong. Not because you're better than them, but because they were never meant to go where you're headed. Growth forces separation, elevation, requires isolation. And the ones who truly belong in your life, they won't disappear. They'll find you. Too many men make the mistake of chasing people who were never meant to stay. They beg for friendships that have expired. They try to force connections that no longer fit. But if someone can't handle your growth, if they don't support your vision, if they make you feel like you have to shrink just to be around them, they were never your people to begin with. The right people don't need explanations. They don't feel threatened by your ambition. They don't get insecure. When you start moving differently, they see your hunger, your discipline, your purpose, and they respect it, they match it, they add to it. That's why you can't settle for just any.
In every crowd, not everyone is for you. Some people are distractions, dressed up as friendships. Others are dead weight, disguised as loyalty. And some, they're chains pretending to be support, while quietly pulling you down. Learning to recognize the difference is not just wisdom, it's survival. A real brotherhood isn't built on convenience. It's built on alignment. It's built on shared values, shared vision, and shared drive. It's not about how long you've known someone, it's about where you're going. and who's truly walking with you. So if you find yourself walking alone right now, don't panic. Don't rush to fill the silence with noise or the empty space with the wrong people. Stay on your path. Stay focused. Keep moving in silence. Keep becoming the kind of man who doesn't need a crowd because he draws warriors, not leeches. The right ones, the rare ones, the ones who push you to rise higher, who sharpen your thinking, who challenge your potential, they will come. But they'll only find you when you're fully standing in your purpose, not when you're clinging to people who no longer belong on your journey. So keep walking, keep building, keep becoming, and trust that those who are meant to walk with you will recognize your energy when you are exactly where you need to be. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever felt like walking alone was the only option left? Have you outgrown people who couldn't keep pace with your growth and vision? Drop your story in the comments below, and let's see how many real ones out here are forging their own path forward. And if this message sparked something deep inside you, don't ignore it. Don't scroll past it. Don't silence it. Like this video, share it with someone who needs it, and most importantly, subscribe to Stoic today right now. Because this journey, it's not for everyone. It's only for those ready to rise. Listen to the next message. It's more than content. It's clarity. It's strength. It's your next step. Your breakthrough starts here.